The cool breeze drifting from the harbor smelled of brine and crushed reeds, sweeping softly through the open marble portico to meet the dry, ancient dust of the reading room. Here, under high, shadow-draped arches, the night was measured not in hours, but in the steady flicker of low bronze lamps. Golden light pooled across long stone tables, illuminating rolls of woven papyrus that rustled like dry leaves whenever the sea air stirred the room. Outside, the great harbor slept under a moonless sky, its black waters reflecting only the distant lanterns of tide ships swaying against the docks. Inside, everything felt permanent, carved into the very foundation of the earth. The air was heavy with the rich scent of cedar wax, old ink, and salt, suspended in a stillness so deep you could hear the soft, rhythmic scrape of a single scholar's reed pen resting against a clay inkwell, unaware that the quiet darkness outside was holding its breath. Stepping away from the portico, the soft sea breeze fades, swallowed whole by the stifling stillness of the deep inner galleries. Here, the air grows thick and heavy, saturated with the rich, resinous aroma of cedar oil rubbed carefully into thousands of sheepskin and papyrus rolls to keep the hungry insects at bay. The scent hangs motionless in the dark, warm and woodsy, mingling with the dry perfume of aged parchment. Flanked on both sides by towering wooden pigeonholes, the endless corridors stretch into shadow, their dark timber cubbies stacked tightly with human memory. Every scroll rests silently in its carved recess, wrapped in ribbon, waiting for hands that will never come. A single flickering lamp casts long, amber fingers across the packed cubbyholes, revealing tiny flakes of dried resin clinging to the frayed edges of the scrolls. In this dense, fragrant sanctuary of wood and ink, the silence is so profound it feels almost holy, holding centuries of thought in a fragile, suspended breath. Emerging from the claustrophobic warmth of the stacked galleries, the transition into the open courtyard feels like a cool, refreshing breath against the skin. Here, the stifling weight of cedar and parchment gives way to crisp midnight air, drifting softly from the nearby sea. The heavy quiet is broken only by the gentle rustle of a fine linen robe trailing against stone and the faint, rhythmic tap of leather sandals gliding over polished limestone tiles. Each subtle footstep echoes softly down the surrounding colonnade, where classical stone pillars stand like vigilant guardians in the moonlight. At the very center of the courtyard rests a rectangular reflection pool, its still, dark water serving as a mirror to the endless Egyptian night. A stray breeze ripples across the surface, breaking the crisp image of the moon into shimmering silver ribbons. In this serene refuge, isolated from the tension beyond the walls, the quiet moment hangs perfectly balanced in the dark. Stepping toward the edge of the elevated stone balcony, the cool maritime breeze carries the sharp, saline scent of sea salt blended with tar and damp timber. Below, the dark harbor stretches out like a sheet of hammered obsidian, swallowing the shadows of the slumbering fleet. The silence here is deeper, punctuated only by the rhythmic, low slap of water against the limestone quays and the slow, rhythmic groan of heavy wooden hulls rubbing against hemp moorings. In the dim distance, tiny orange points of torchlight flicker atop the decks of resting warships, casting long, trembling amber needles across the gentle swells. The night air feels heavier here, thick with the moisture of the Mediterranean and an unspoken tension resting over the anchored vessels. From this height, the vastness of the water feels ancient and patient, holding its breath while the quiet city slumbers, entirely unaware of the heat that the coming dawn will bring. Turning back inside, away from the damp harbor wind, heavy linen curtains swallow the sound of the sea, restoring the warm, dry silence of the scholar's private alcove. Here, the air smells rich with melted beeswax, bitter cedarwood, and the sharp, metallic tang of iron gall ink resting in a dark brass well. A hand reaches out, lifting a delicate reed pen, its split tip worn smooth by years of careful scholarship. As the nib dips into the dark pool, the ink clings to the porous wood before transferring to a fresh sheet of textured papyrus. The sound of writing is a soft, rhythmic whispering, a quiet scratch against coarse fibers that feels almost like a heartbeat in the still room. Each stroke carves thin, dark symbols across the pale surface, capturing thoughts before they can drift away. Around the low desk, half-rolled manuscripts stack loosely, their edges curled under the gentle flickering glow of a single, slow-burning candle, keeping the deep shadows at bay. Stepping past the heavy curtain and leaving the warm circle of candlelight behind, the air shifts immediately, growing cooler and heavier against the skin. The grand hallway stretches into the darkness, its white marble floor reflecting the faint, pale light drifting down from high, arched skylights open to the star-filled sky. Monumental statues of long-forgotten astronomers and stone philosophers stand in silent vigil along the walls, their carved faces half drowned in long, reaching shadows. Here, deep within the monumental stone shell, a meditative stillness reigns, so profound that every breath feels like a quiet intrusion upon centuries of thought. Yet if one listens closely, past the gentle creak of settling timber and dry papyrus, a faint, rhythmic thud vibrates up through the cold floor tiles. Far outside, beyond the colossal bronze doors, the measured tread of night guards echoes off the outer courtyard walls, a distant, metallic pulse reminding the quiet sanctuary of the restless world outside. Moving toward the far end of the grand hallway, a deep alcove opens up to a tall, arched stone window frame that looks out across the ancient port city. The night outside is invisible, swallowed whole by a dense sea fog rolling silently inland from the unseen harbor. The heavy, damp mist drifts through the open stone arches, meeting the warm, dry air of the archives in a soft, ghostly collision. You can feel the moisture instantly on your face and arms, a fine sheen of salt-laden humidity settling over the warm wood of the reading desks and the delicate edge of open scrolls. Below the sill, the tiered clay roofs of the surrounding city disappear into the swirling white gloom, blanketed in total silence. The humid air carries the sharp scent of the sea, mixing with the dusty, sweet aroma of aged ink and papyrus. For a brief moment, the immense weight of human thought seems suspended, resting between the quiet parchment inside and the vast, cool ocean breathing just beyond the walls. Stepping back from the damp window arch into the warm safety of the side chamber, the atmosphere shifts completely. Here, the air is thick with the resinous, spiced scent of shaved cedar and dry linen wrappings. Stacked wooden shipping crates crowd the narrow stone room, their polished bronze latches gleaming softly in the wavering candlelight. A pair of worn, vein-ribboned hands moves with painstaking slowness over a low workbench. Between fingers stained deep with dried ink lies a single, fragile sheet of pale papyrus, marked with delicate, concentric ink circles mapping the movements of distant stars. Every movement is silent and deliberate. The old hands gently slide the astronomical diagram onto a padded bed of washed wool inside a fitted cedar chest. The dry wood gives off a sharp, clean fragrance as the diagram comes to rest. There is a quiet desperation in the gesture, a gentle holding of breath, as if a single rough movement might shatter the fragile geometry of heaven drawn upon the page. Leaving the quiet cedar vault behind, the high archways open back into the vast central study hall, where the night air shifts again. Overhead, massive bronze lamps hang suspended from thick chains anchored deep in the vaulted stone ceiling, swaying almost imperceptibly in the cool drafts pushing down through high ventilation grates. Each brass bowl cradles a pool of golden oil, where lit cotton wicks burn with a steady, soothing rhythm. Every few moments, a tiny pocket of moisture within the burning olive oil pops with a soft, comforting snap, sending small sparks cascading through the warm shadows. Below these suspended suns, dark wooden tables stretch down the hall, their polished surfaces catching the dancing amber light. Scraps of preliminary translation notes, weighed down by heavy bronze rulers, rustle faintly as the breeze passes through. The soft hum of flickering fire and the gentle whistle of wind through stone create a sanctuary of profound, quiet focus. Beyond the long study tables lies the great circular rotunda, the silent heart of the grand building. Here, the air opens upward into a monumental stone dome, where the cool coastal breeze finds its true voice. As the wind drifts between the massive fluted columns, it transforms into a soft, resonant hum, rising and falling like the slow, rhythmic breath of a sleeping giant. Below, worn marble mosaic tiles stretch across the floor, set in muted tones of clay red, slate blue, and pale mustard yellow. They map out the ancient constellations, chariots, serpents, and forgotten kings, smoothed flat by centuries of bare and sandaled feet. When the wind lulls, the silence returns with an almost weightless gravity, holding the room in gentle suspension. Standing at the center of the celestial map, looking up into the shadows of the dome, one feels small yet utterly safe, wrapped in the quiet endurance of stone, light, and sky. Step back from the center of the rotunda, and the grand world narrows once more to the quiet sanctuary of a single desk. Here, resting on a thick slab of dark cedar, sits a small clay cup of herbal tea, long cooled into silence. A faint scent of dried mint and wild thyme lingers above its dark surface, unbroken by the faintest ripple. Beside it lies a heavy brass astrolabe, its intricate gears and engraved rings catching the amber flicker of a dying oil lamp. Delicate metal dividers rest open across a hand-drawn map of the stars, their sharp tips marking forgotten coordinates on heavy, cream-colored papyrus. Rolls of thick vellum spill across the weathered wood, filled with delicate ink lines mapping distant coastlines and celestial paths. In this tiny circle of warm light, surrounded by instruments built to measure infinity, time seems to pause entirely. There is only the cool scent of herbs, the weight of brass, and the profound comfort of quiet thought. Stepping out from the quiet desk onto the upper eastern terrace, the deep indigo of the night air feels cool against warm skin. The harbor below rests in shadow, its gentle waters lapping against stone piers with a rhythm as steady as breathing. But far across the sleeping bay, low on the dark line where the sea meets the sky, a strange and soft orange light begins to swell. It is not yet the sharp brilliance of dawn, but a warm, flickering pulse that bleeds into the bruised purple of the fading night. Long amber highlights stretch across the high marble pillars of the terrace, turning cold white stone into soft, glowing gold. A faint breeze carries the crisp scent of salt water mixed with the dry, bitter tang of distant wood smoke. Up here, suspended between the silent scrolls inside and the shifting light across the water, the world sits frozen in a fragile, glowing breath before the dark truly breaks. Turning back toward the interior, the cool outdoor draft yields once more to the quiet warmth of the deep archives. Here, in the long central corridor, the air is heavy with the familiar, comforting scent of dried papyrus reeds and old beeswax sealant. Endless rows of cedar shelves stretch out into the velvet shadows, holding countless wooden cubbies where thousands of rolled scrolls rest in perfect, undisturbed order. The high, vaulted ceilings swallow the faint echoes of soft footfalls, preserving a profound stillness that feels nearly sacred. Each niche holds centuries of quiet labor, of ink drying on woven reeds, of human minds trying to capture the flickering thoughts of their fleeting lives. There is no panic in these dark halls, only the serene, timeless weight of accumulated wisdom waiting silently under the dim oil lamps. In this precise moment, right before the dark sky softens into gray, the archive stands whole, peaceful, and entirely unbroken. Stepping down a short flight of worn stone stairs, the corridor gives way to a low vaulted basement chamber where the air is noticeably cooler and damp. High above, narrow slits carved through the thick masonry allow pale streaks of silvery moonlight to pierce the darkness, cutting soft blue paths through suspended motes of dust. In the center of this quiet sanctuary sits a heavy oak chest, its surface scarred by time and smoothed by generations of careful hands. A pair of calloused palms gently lowers the lid, pressing down until the sharp, metallic click of a heavy bronze latch rings out, echoes softly against the stone, and falls silent. Inside, carefully wrapped in dry linen, rest fragile manuscripts containing forgotten geometry and ancient songs. The lock snaps firm, sealing away the ink and memory into the darkness of the iron-bound chest. Here beneath the earth, protected from the restless Mediterranean breeze, these words wait in absolute stillness, entirely unaware of the dawn that approaches. Above the quiet vaults, the great city slumbers beneath a vast canopy of sapphire night. Outside the towering marble colonnades, a gentle sea breeze carries the clean salt spray off the water, brushing against warm whitewashed stone and whispering through distant olive groves. Down along the harbor, black waves lap rhythmically against the stone piers, carrying the low, rhythmic hum of a tide that has breathed here for centuries. Stone will eventually crumble into sand, and ink will inevitably pale against the relentless march of time, yet the true sanctuary was never the papyrus or the grand halls. It was the quiet spark of wonder that made a lone thinker look up at the stars and ask why. That spark cannot be burned, trapped, or forgotten. It lives on in every restless mind that pauses in the quiet dark, seeking to understand this vast and silent world, enduring long after the quietest shadows of the night have gently given way to morning.